Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the May Ordinary Council meeting. I declare this meeting open at 6:01. Kaya Marman, Kaya Yoga, Kaya Bridie, Yana Nook, Nalak Kadij Winjialak Nini, Nalak Kadij Nija Bujabal, Wajak Nunga Buja Nalak Nini, Kura, Nijie Burawan. The town of Bassendean acknowledges the Wajak people of the Noongar Nation as the traditional custodians of this land. We pay our respects to the elders past and present and acknowledge their continuing culture and the contribution they make to the region. Councillors, if you could all sign the Declaration of Civic Duty, and for the benefit of the audience, I will read out what the councillors sign at the beginning of each meeting. I make this declaration in good faith and declare that I will duly, faithfully, honestly and with integrity fulfil the duties of my office for all the people in the town of Bassendean according to the best of my judgment and ability. Attendances, apologies and applications for leave of absence. Now we have two apologies tonight. We have Councillor Hayden Long, who is on leave, and Councillor Talon Ames, who is an apology. There are no other apologies, are there, Mr CEO?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Councillors, I would call for any applications for leave of absence.
Thank you.
Your microphone.
Just a reminder that I have leave of absence from the 1st to the 20th of June. Inclusive.
That's already been approved, has it not? Yes, right. Okay. Councillors, I'll also now call for any declarations of interest on any item. No? Okay. This brings us to deputations. Now, we've had one deputation that was withdrawn, that was lodged in a timely manner, but they have withdrawn that deputation and will do that at another meeting. We have Michael Grau, who is not attending, so therefore a deputation cannot be accepted. And we have Kathleen English, where the deputation is refused because it came in after 12 o'clock today.
It did not. I submitted it last night.
Mr. CEO.
The detail. So a request for a deputation was made, Madam Mayor, but we can't assess a request unless the deputation is in writing.
Okay. I would remind people
I did put in detail in the request, and if that was the issue, you could have reached out to me and I would have happily have given you the transcript. I wasn't aware that was, you required more detail. It was a pretty clear what would be the content.
Okay, so the reason that we ask for the deputations in writing is so that it can be transcribed into the minutes of each meeting. So I note that there has been a practice recently to do deputations without the information being sent through by email. So this is one of the issues that we're confronted with. We have officers who are sitting there from hours upon hours listening to a recording, trying to transcribe information. So deputations on the website, it's actually fairly clear that a deputation is supposed to be provided in full. And my understanding from the CEO is that has not
From
been...
what I've read, I don't believe I read that anywhere in the policies. But I understand that, and I would have happily provided it if you'd requested it, or even just called me back.
So Kathleen, would you like to do statement instead?
No, I would like to do my deputation.
Mr. CEO?
I'm requesting you as the presiding member, Madam Mayor.
You're the presiding person. We've rejected it based on your...
Okay, is there any new information that you'd like to provide compared to other deputations that you've done on this matter in the past?
Absolutely.
Okay, and the deputation relates entirely to the fees and charges as per the report?
It relates to the fees and charges and the town hall held around that agenda item that was on Friday. This is why I could not do it last week, as I explained in my email, and it also has a personal part at the end.
Okay, so the town hall meeting was not part of the agenda.
The town hall meeting was regarding item 12.2 on the agenda, therefore I believe it has relevance.
Okay, Mr. CEO, you wanted to...
Well, only the fact that councillors were invited to that meeting and you were present. I think so was Councillor Long, so was Councillor Carter. So the fact that the community call a town hall meeting is for the community. If the councillors want to attend, then they should attend. It's not up then for the community to come here and then say what happened at the meeting. I don't
The
see it
community
as-
that is the
Okay,
electorate.
So,
No, it's not the community, it's individuals that attended the meeting.
okay. So Kathleen, in this instance, I will allow the deputation, but it must be less than 10 minutes.
It
And I
is,
do
thank
not
you.
wish you to stray onto topics that have already been discussed in the past. And I would like you to keep to the agenda item, which is fees and charges, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Time starts now.
If you could give your name and address.
Kathleen
and-
English, Unit 213, Clawton Way, Bassendean.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and councillors and town officers. This deputation is presented on behalf of members of the Wyndham and the Willows community following the public town hall meeting held on the 22nd of May 2026. Thank you to the wonderful Bassendean community for continuing to demonstrate your care for this beloved icon of the town, Wyndham and the Willows childcare centres, even on short notice. I also extend my thanks and respect and regards to all Willows educators and staff, as well as educators across the industry as a whole. Your work is invaluable. I'd like to take the time to thank those councillors who were able to attend on such short notice. Thank you, Councillor Long. I know his apologies here. Councillor Carter, thank you. And Mayor Hamilton, it was great to see your faces. And thank you to Councillor John and Councillor Ames, who sent through their apologies. I'm glad to have chatted with each of you recently, even if it was a bit brief. And Councillor Pilifka and Councillor Burke, I believe you have my number. I'm always happy to chat. I would also just like to quickly thank Dave Kelly and Tanya Lawrence, who helped us organise it and attended respectively. The purpose of this deputation is to formally express community concern regarding the ongoing divestment process and agenda item 12.2, Wind in the Willows. The proposed 26.6% fee increase scheduled for the 1st of July 2026. I have the official minutes of the Town Hall from Friday as an attachment for the minutes. I will send these through in an email tonight.
So, Kathleen, could I ask that people not be on their phones in the chamber while we're conducting the meeting? Okay, can I ask?
Can
that
you
people-
pause and give me my time back?
Yes, we will pause it. I'll give you a few extra minutes.
Thank you.
So during a meeting, we ask that cameras, phones, that none of these devices are in action in the chamber. We also ask our own councillors to adhere to that behaviour as well. So if you don't mind, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Kelly, I am going to continue. I'm going to continue with the deputation. Kathleen, could I please ask also, when you finish this deputation, could you actually email it through to the...
Yes, I just said that I'd do that
Okay.
tonight.
So
Thank you.
we'll have an extra minute or two onto this.
Thank
okay?
you. Hopefully I don't need it. I have tried to time it well.
Okay.
So where was I? So I have the attachments and I'll email them through tonight.
Thank you.
Wind in the Willows has operated as a community childcare service in Bassendean for more than 50 years and is valued not only as a childcare provider but as an important community asset that has supported generations of local families. It is the result of countless organisations, individuals and businesses, from St Mark's Church to St John of God Ambulance, from artists to tradies, from sausage sizzles to chicken coops. Speakers at the meeting, including parents, educators and community representatives, consistently raised concerns about the uncertainty created by the proposed sale process, the impact on staff retention and family confidence, affordability pressures on families during a cost of living crisis, and the long-term future of community-based childcare in Bassendean. Families spoke about the importance of stable educator relationships, continuity of care, and the unique community culture that Wind in the Willows provides. I personally spoke a lot to this. Educators and parents also expressed concern that ongoing uncertainty is already affecting staff wellbeing and family security. The meeting also noted that the original sale proposal proceeded before meaningful community consultation occurred. The first purchaser withdrew. Motions passed at special electors meeting calling for greater transparency and community involvement were largely not adopted, and the fee increase of 26.6% is on the table whilst disposal is still being pursued. The proposed fee increase was strongly opposed. Community members acknowledge that some fee adjustment may be necessary. However, many expressed concern that a 26.6% increase would place significant financial strain on families and may undermine accessibility to childcare. I have raised concerns about it dropping occupancy rates beyond sustainability with a few of you directly. The meeting then respectfully requested that Council prepare and consider an option for the town to continue operating Wind in the Willows on an ongoing basis, consistent with the motion passed at the special meeting of electors. Reject the proposed 26.6 fee increase from 1st of July. In a cost of living crisis, this would be an unreasonable financial burden on families. And to set a new fee from the 1st of July of not more than $170 per day. That is an increase of over 10%, and it would bring the hourly rate at Willows to approximately the same as Nido, the premium childcare provider in the area. So I'll move on to speaking about a more personal note as an individual now. It is related to item 12.2 on the agenda. I truly believe that there is a path forward that regains trust, repairs the reputational damage the town has suffered, and rebuilds collaborative and open community culture with the electorate and local governance. I am heartened to see increasing engagement from yourselves, councillors, and a clearer focus on solutions and engagement. I respect the preceding months have not been easy on any of us, and I fear that there has been a lot of hard work and decisions by town admin and councillors alike that have been overshadowed by this saga. However, I note that the officer's report on item 12.2 in the agenda assesses the reputational risk as medium. Councillors, I ask you, with all of the ongoing news coverage and public outcry and gatherings and clear reputational damage this town and community have suffered, does it still feel medium risk to you? The officer's report also selectively used a quote from the special meeting of electors on the 25th of March, and previous iterations of the agenda noted that a large fee increase was widely supported at this meeting. Direct quote. I ask you, councillors, to consider whether audience applause at a public meeting can reasonably be interpreted as evidence of formal community consultation or broad community support. Public applause is not considered part of the decision-making mechanisms in the Local Government Act, nor is it a substitute for meaningful community consultation. You were all at that meeting. Do you recall the context in which this statement was raised? The individual who spoke to this is now named in the agenda. Do you think this is appropriate by the officers and encourages good faith engagement with council? I ask councillors, do you think it is appropriate for comments made by members of the public who are not elected representatives and are not subject to the same statutory obligations as yourselves to be selectively quoted within officer reports to support a significant policy outcome, particularly one involving the largest proposed fee increase in recent memory, likely the largest single fee increase in its history? I ask you to consider this. I am concerned that actions of this nature pose a significant risk, undermining community trust in both council and the considerable work undertaken by councillors and town staff. I see your work, but I also feel the consequences of the lack of trust that this behaviour garnishes from the public. I do not believe that there can be true repair and good faith collaboration until behaviour of this type ceases or is appropriately addressed by yourselves as councillors. Now, I've come before you several times before today. As someone who has appeared before council on multiple occasions, I am concerned about the precedent this may set for future public participation on any issue that people care about, and whether community members may become hesitant to engage openly with council processes. Is that a precedent you want to set? Does that align with the declaration you make prior to every meeting as councillors? Does that align with the town of Bassendean's values? I encourage you to think on this. And thank you for your time, and I appreciate you letting me speak, given the confusion. Apologies for not providing the detail needed.
Thank you. Councillor Plifka, you wanted to ask a question. I could see from your
Is it not a deputation?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Well, look, we'll just stick to the facts. So would you agree that there was an offer by a private provider to purchase Wind in the Willows? Would you agree with that?
As per the documents, yes.
Yes. And in terms of the electors' meeting, you would agree that there was a resolution there that Wind in the Willows not be sold to a private or a for-profit provider?
I don't have the specific wording of the motions in front of me, but I'm sure you would on your laptop
But
if
you
you'd
would
like to read
agree
it.
that, well, I don't have that on the laptop, but you would agree that the community sentiment, whether
Was
through
for
the-
it to stay with the community.
But it was to not sell to a for-profit. You would agree with that?
It was not to sell it at all, I believe.
Okay.
Would you agree with that?
Well, no, the resolution related to, specifically in the consultation, and we have those figures, indicated that there was a strong preference if it was to be sold.
Yes, if it was to be sold.
That it wouldn't be to a for-profit, so it would be a
Yes.
not-for-profit that
Yes.
would be the preferred.
You're correct.
Yes, okay.
Okay.
So in those circumstances, the figure of $170 that you've arrived at, you've done by comparison to a for-profit provider. Why is that appropriate?
Because I actually based that on the previous iterations of its agenda where the officer genuinely did a comparison to the prices of a for-profit provider.
But you agree, though, that NIDO is a for-profit provider?
Yes, and they actually
you're
have
comparing
more
Wind in the Willows
overheads.
to a for-profit provider?
No, I am not. I am aligning with the comparison that the officers had previously used. Also, I thought
I
a
can
reasonable
leave it
fee
at
increase
that.
was
I'm
10%.
satisfied with that response.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Does anyone else have a question? I'm happy to
Councillors?
chat.
No? Okay. Thank you very much,
Thank you
Kathleen.
very much for your time. I have the attachments as I stated, and I will email them through. I won't do it from council chambers, don't worry.
Okay, thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll now move on to statement time. Statements are to be directed to myself and will be limited to 2 minutes per person. 15 minutes total is allocated for public statement time. If I could ask if you have a statement to make, raise your hand, step forward to the podium, make sure the red light is on the microphone and clearly state your name and address. Mr. Kelly.
Thank you very much. Dave Kelly, 195 Aldclyffe Road. I just want to make a few comments about the budget that's in the agenda supporting the officers' fee increase. There's a couple of things that I would like to hear fully explained. The operating overheads of $250,000 that's attributed to Wind in the Willows, which I understand is a percentage of the council's overall corporate overheads. People I've spoken to, that's an enormous, $250,000 is an enormous amount to attribute to an operation the size of Wind in the Willows. So I think that needs to be explained tonight by someone. And what it actually means is if you do sell off Wind in the Willows, you're going to lose that contribution to your corporate overheads. It's about 2 FTE. So it's actually potentially a loss to the council. The same with the maintenance that's attributed to Wind in the Willows for the next financial year. $307,000. It's an enormous amount of maintenance. I understand some of it is insurance and some of it is depreciation, but over $200,000 is maintenance. Those things need to be properly explained tonight. You've heard that there was a meeting on Friday night of parents who came along and supported a 10% increase. That shows the parents here are trying to find a solution to this issue. 26% is an outrageous increase to impose on parents during a cost of living crisis. You've effectively had an olive branch extended to the council by parents who attend Wind in the Willows. I would encourage you to take it. Whatever the circumstances that the town of Bassendean finds itself in, the parents are not to blame. And a 26.6% increase would indicate that you're holding them responsible for the financial position of the service. I would encourage
Thank
you
you,
to
Mr.
take
Kelly.
the 10% offer that's
Thank
been
you.
made. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Further statements, ma'am, if you'd come to the microphone. And your name and address, thank you.
Emma Barrington, Deacon Street, Bassendean. I'm placing on the record my concern regarding the way my comments I made at the special meeting of electors on the 25th of March have subsequently been referenced and relied upon within the office's reports and public responses. At the SME in March, I made a personal statement in the heat of the moment, although it was in the context of retaining Wind in the Willows as a community-run service. I also pointed out that the town should have consulted and engaged with parents earlier regarding fees, so concerns could have been properly considered before divestment of the Wind in the Willows was pursued. No formal motion was moved by me at the special meeting of electors, nor does it matter that I was the petitioner, or, as the CEO puts it, organiser, although the town organises the SME, not me. In support, no formal motion was moved by me at the special electors in support of the current fee model or associated financial assumptions now being relied upon by the town. My comments were made during general discussions and were not a formal resolution or endorsement of the town's proposed direction. However, my comments appeared to be overused in a way that suggests supports for a fee increase and the broader processes. That does not reflect my position or the context in which those comments were made. These references have been repeated in public responses to community questions, reinforcing an interpretation that does not reflect the context of my comments or my position. I was referencing the potentiality of paying more to retain the service as a community-run service, not paying increased fees to support disposal pathways, redundancy liabilities, or broader financial assumptions now being relied upon by the town's administration. I note that information presented to Council should be accurate, balanced and not misleading, including an omission or selective framing. This was confirmed to me today in writing by the Local Government Inspectorate. I also note repeated references to community willingness to pay more and reactions from the attendees at the SME, as though these endorsed the town's position. Audience reactions are not a formally resolved position of electors or community endorsement. Applause is not a recognised decision-making mechanism under the Local Government Act or regulations or the town's meeting procedures and local law. An SME exists for electors to formally move and vote on motions. It is not a process where community sentiment is measured through audience reaction or selectively interpreted comments from individual residents. Accordingly, I reiterate my request for the administration to remove references of my comments for future agenda materials as recommended and to cease relying on audience reactions and perceived applauses as justification for decisions of council or administration. You are conducting yourselves and contempt to general ratepayers, parents and interested parties. It is wrong.
Thank you very much. Okay. Yes, sir. And name and address.
Aaron McKay, 33 North Road, Bassendean. I'd just like to thank the Mayor, Kath Hamilton, for her hard work on the dirt track motion that she's put forward, and I hope that the councillor see this as an exciting opportunity to do a low-cost, community-based event. And yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Any further statements? Ma'am, if you'd like to come to the microphone and state your name and address.
Thank you. Jessica Sinewalk, Margaret Street in Ashfield, and this is Sebastian Sinewalk Veld, not yet a registered voter.
Can I ask you to move as close as possible to the microphone because I can hardly hear you?
Absolutely. Okay. So I'd just like to say thank you, Madam Mayor, for having me, that the recent impact of the proposed 26.6% fee increase to Wind in the Willows would certainly have an impact on families, yes, but I'm also wanting to question the why now of this, with a potential sale looming in a year's time. Despite what some may think, the Save Willows campaign is not against all town decision making with regards to community assets, and nor does it hold any designs on vendetta. They're not asking ratepayers either to subsidise the service, but rather to work in collaboration with the town to find a reasonable solution for all parties to ensure that longer-term viability of the service. At present, the fee increase reads of hurriedly injecting funds into the reserve, with the intention to pay leave owing and then sell the land. I am personally not against a fee increase. I would impassion the town to consider an increase that's more reasonable and in line with concerns that the town has previously had when they have also designed to raise fees in the past that were nowhere near a 26.6% margin. Yes, I fully agree a deficit needs to be avoided, but I also believe that a much more modest rise can achieve this by some basic sums than I have done. And yes, I do personally have a child currently attending Wind in the Willows, and I hope to enrol my next. But up until this point, it's been an amazing service. But I'm too looking beyond the years that they require care, and should like to think that all of the previous care, passion, emotional, cognitive labour that's been put in by parents and the town will continue to have the service running for decades to come, long after my own children. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, further statements? Okay, we'll move on to public question time. Questions are to be directed to myself. Members of the public are entitled to ask up to 2 questions before other members of the public will be invited to ask their questions. 15 minutes will be allocated for questions by members of the public unless the council by resolution decides otherwise. Questions already sent through to the administration via the online portal prior to 12 p.m. today have been recorded, and these will be included in the minutes of the meeting. We would ask that we don't duplicate questions from past meetings, and as presiding person, I can certainly decide whether to accept or reject questions, request the CEO to respond to a question, or take the question on notice. A written response will be provided for any question taken on notice, and that also will appear in the minutes of the meeting. So I'd ask anyone who has a question to put up their hand and come to the microphone, state their name and address. So, if you'd like to come to the microphone, state your name and address, that would be excellent. As the microphone, oh, it's on, excellent.
I'm Alan Copleston, 81 Parker Street in Bassendean. My question refers a little bit to Dave Kelly's statement earlier, but with a bit more detail. It refers to the Wind and Willows fees and charges. It refers to the statement of comprehensive income released by the CEO, and during the week, the statement of income and expenditure for 2023-24 and 24-25 was also released. I would have put this up, put it in as before 12 o'clock, but I've been working on it this afternoon.
Okay.
So I've got 2 questions.
Can we do them one at a time?
Yeah, I will. And you'll probably take them on notice because they're a bit detailed.
We'll see where we are.
With the category occupational costs, the 2 previous years plus the projected budget for next year add up to $834,000. Divided by the open days that the centre's open, that works out to $1,159 a week, or $231 a day. That sounds pretty heavy to me. This is difficult to believe. Has the town a breakdown of work done or about to be done to show that this is a true figure?
Firstly, Mr.
No, I think you'll need it on notice.
Well, I think the last statement is a true figure is perhaps a little bit out of line, because we've had those 2023-24 statements and the 24-25 statements independently audited, and what you saw online is an independent audit of those figures. But I will ask the CEO, Mr. CEO, did you want the staff to answer this or take it on notice?
Take it on notice, Madam.
Okay, we'll take it on notice. And your second question, sir?
In the previous 2 years, there was a heading for other expenditure. In the year 23-24, this was $213,941. In the year 24-25, it was $195,941. $18,038, which is a reduction of $18,903. So in the previous 2 years, figures were getting better. But in the next year, it's only $4,283. But there's a new line called corporate overheads of $250,680, making the other expenditure add up to $254,960, an increase of $59,927. Can you explain what these charges are made up of?
Okay, Mr CEO.
Thanks, Alan. We'll take it on notice. Thank you.
I thought you might.
thank
Do you want this in writing? So
Yes, please.
I'll give it to you down the front there.
You want to grab it?
Okay. Further questions? Sir, if you'd come to the microphone, state your name and address.
Dave Kelly, 195 Old Perth Road. The two questions that I submitted in writing, I am interested in hearing what the answers are so that they can inform the discussion tonight. The first was essentially what has been the cost to the previous year's budget to the divestment process that was unsuccessful, and secondly, what component of the budget going forward has been attributed firstly to costs such as consultants and outgoings relating to the new expression of interest, and secondly, how many staff hours is it estimated that will be required to execute and complete a second expression of interest process, and what's the dollar value on that? And these items obviously directly relate to the fees and charges, certainly the proposal that's being put, because the fees and charges are will make a contribution to the budget. So I'm interested, I put these in on Sunday, so the town has had them for 2 days. I'm interested to hear what the answers are so that they can inform the discussion tonight.
So, Mr CEO, did you want to address this or did you want Amanda to address this?
No, that's fine, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to address. So thanks for the questions, Dave, and getting them in early. So question one, the setting of the Wind and Willows fees is not influenced by the broader town of Bassendean budget. The fees and charges have been modelled for this business unit based on a forecast achievable occupancy of 80% and the operating expenses as outlined in the business unit budget as attachment one in the report. The projected surplus and the proposed fee to generate the surplus is to ensure that the occupancy levels drop. If the occupancy levels drop, the ratepayers are protected from another operating loss. If the surplus is achieved, $140,000 can be returned to the reserves to cover the ratepayer funded loss of 25-26. In relation to question two, the additional contractor costs for divestment have been not been costed against Wind and Willows. These will be separate operating expenditure items as part of the broader budget, which is forecast to be around $70,000. The staff costs associated with the divestment will be absorbed in the salaries and wages budget as part of the corporate overheads. These costs are significant and represent an opportunity cost rather than a real cost, as specific timesheet allocation is not used for these types of projects. Currently, the Wind and the Willows business unit is only charged 4% of all of our corporate overheads, despite the service representing 25% of the town's FTE.
Thank you.
So you're saying, in respect of the second question, which is how much is it going to cost the town to execute the second expression of interest process, you can't or you're not prepared to give a figure
That was answered.
tonight?
I gave you a figure of $70,000.
And it's
And
separate.
it's not part of the Wind and the Willows budget, is absorbed into our
So
municipal.
70,000, and then on top of that, there'll be staff costs which you can't quantify?
No, the staff are employed every day of the week here. We're not getting in new staff. I'm saying
Sure.
we don't fill out a timesheet every day to go, I spent 5 hours on Wind in the Willows, but the staff time is considerable. And
All right.
the takeaway should be only 4% of our overheads, 4% are attributed to Wind in the Willows
Sure, I'm
As
talking about the
corporate- as corporate costs.
as corporate overheads.
Yeah, I'm talking about the divestment process that you're going to undertake. So 75,000.
70.
70 plus staff time, which is considerable but
No, he
unquantifiable.
didn't say that. The staff time was in relation to the other part of your question. $70,000 is
Yep.
part of the budget, which is not associated with the Wind in the Willows fees, and that $70,000 will be used for the next stage of the process, and whether that is consultants or in-house, the estimated cost is $70,000. Okay?
Sorry, $70,000 plus staff time.
No,
Yes, Madam Mayor, $70,000 is our estimate for the divestment process, which has not been costed against Wind in the Willows.
Sure.
The ratepayer is funding that.
Sure, I understand that.
Okay.
Plus the staff time, which you've said is significant but unquantifiable. Is that what you said?
Yeah, financial literacy, corporate overheads. Our corporate staff exist, so we're not getting in extra staff.
No need to be difficult.
Well,
I'm
we've
just
had
trying.
this conversation around how to read financial reports, and it doesn't seem to be sinking in.
okay. Mr Kelly.
Cameron, you
Mr.
don't
Kelly-
have to
Mr.
speak to
Kelly,
people that way.
excuse
It's
me,
not
Mr.
helpful.
Mr Kelly,
Yes,
you've
yes,
had
Mayor.
2 questions.
Yep.
3 questions, okay. I would ask if you'd like to take your seat.
Sure,
Does anyone
yep.
else like to ask a question? Okay, so thank you. On that note, we will move on to, there are no petitions. I have councillors, confirmation of the minutes, the recommendation that the minutes of the following meetings be received and confirmed as a true and correct record. It's the ordinary council meeting on the 28th of April 2026 and the special council meeting on the 19th of May 2026. Could I have a mover for that item? Councillor Polifka, a seconder. Councillor Burke. Do I have anyone against? I'll declare that carried. We have no business deferred from the previous meeting. This brings us to the external committee reports and updates. The recommendation that council notes the minutes from external committees received within the reporting period. And I would ask if there's a mover for that item. Councillor Carter, a seconder. Councillor Polifka. Do I have anyone against? I'll declare that carried. We now move on to 12.1, adoption of recommendations en bloc. Now, Councillor Carter, I believe that you're pulling 12.3 out of en bloc. Thank you. And councillors for noting 12.5, which is in en bloc, Town of Bassendean Reconciliation Action Plan endorsement. Please note the following change tabled by the officer. The Reconciliation Action Plan appears on page 271 to 281 of the agenda attachments. The word significant will be added to page 279. The Reconciliation Action Plan is item 12.5 on that page 36. So, councillors, you've noted that that change has been recommended by the officer and is included.
Just on that, Madam Mayor, I thank them for making that change, and on that basis, I won't be removing that item from en bloc,
Okay,
so I
thank
thank
you.
them for that.
Okay. So, councillors, do I have a mover for this item? Councillor Polifka. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Burke. Do I have anyone against? I'll declare that carried. So that brings us to the actual items in the agenda for consideration. The first one is 12.2, Wind in the Willows fees and charges. I will ask the officer, Mr. CEO, would you like to speak to this or the...
No, thanks, Madam Mayor,
Director.
the Director of Corporate Services, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillors, whilst we're waiting for our Director, I'd let you know that we have a proposed amendment that I have circulated. When we come to that, I will allow some time for you to read and we'll go from there. But at the moment, we have an officer's recommendation and a proposed amendment.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor, CEO and councillors. This report represents the outcomes of the local, my apologies. Just bear with me. I was going to the wrong one, sorry. This report was presented to councillors at the agenda briefing session held on Tuesday, 19th of May. There has been some additional information which is bolded in red, which you would have already read. This report seeks council endorsement of the proposed Wind and Willows daily fee for the 26-27. The proposed fee is $195 per day from the 1st of July 2026. I have made no other amendments, and it's to seek your endorsement.
Thank you. Councillors, I'll open it up to questions of the officers on the officer report. Okay, councillors, I'm going to give you a few minutes to actually...
Just on the officers' report.
Yes, sir.
Look, given that this council's come along in leaps and bounds in terms of its financial health, I am a bit concerned about any loss-making endeavour. It was to one of the questioners' questions, which was the total amount that the town had lost. Now, I note that in the, and bear with me, the attachments, so that's page 161 of the attachments. So there we have the independently audited financial statements. Now, reading those, that appears to me that in the financial year 2023-24, there's a loss of 334,000, and for the financial year 24-25, there's a loss of 360, we'll call it 364,000. So round those to the nearest 1,000. And I understand that provisionally that there was a figure floating around of 140-odd thousand that was the projected loss for the current year.
Correct.
So adding those all together, so the past 3 financial years, that's 800 and change. So over 800,000. I mean, you'd have the precise figure, I imagine, but it's in excess of 800,000.
Through the mayor, yes, that is correct.
Okay. And in terms of that, there were, Wind and the Willows did have a reserve historically. I assume that those funds have been used to defray some of that cost.
Correct.
So how much was able to come out of reserves to cover that?
If you look at the table, we did actually have $363,000 that was actually moved to the reserve. So I'll actually read it out, okay, what I'm actually looking at the moment. So you've got $363,000. If you look in the table, it will be transferred back to the Muni, leaving a shortfall of approximately $475,000. However, the proposed fee of the $195 that I'm actually proposing, and remembering that's at the 80% occupancy, and the service which will repay that 140,000K. So we're going to have a loss of 140K predicted this year. Okay, this means that approximately 335,000 is outstanding, which is equivalent to, if you look at the masses, which I've done with other things, it's about a 1.9% increase in the rates of approximately $45 per rateable property.
Okay, so we've increased, because I always worked on the basis, 140,000 was about 1%, so we've increased.
Yeah.
Okay,
but if you look at the table, you can actually see that from the table, that is actually substantial.
So near on 2% of rates?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councillors, further questions? Councillor Plivka, do you want to turn off your microphone?
Oh, yes, sorry.
I believe we might have technical problems with some of the things that are going to be on the screen. Yep, that's okay. Okay. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, we were going to put up the alternative on the screen, but we have some problems with the actual screen not doing what we would like it to do. Such is life with technical issues. Councillors, I will read out my proposed amendment or alternative, whichever you'd like to call it. that Council 1 endorses a daily fee of $192 per child for attendance at Wind in the Willows for the 26-27 financial year, effective from the 1st of July 2026, and 2, provides a discount on that daily rate of approximately 7% to offer a fee of $179 per child per day for children permanently enrolled each term at Wind in the Willows for a minimum of 4 or more days per week during the 26-27 financial year. 3, authorises the administration to notify families of the adopted fee changes following the 26th of May 2026 Ordinary Council meeting, effective from the 1st of July 2026. 4, request the CEO to prepare biannual financial reporting for the Wind in the Willows business to forecast the break-even figure, inclusive of the $140,000 forecast 2025-26 loss, and that this report be provided to councillors via the bulletin. Now, I have had feedback from the administration in respect to this proposed amendment, quite a lot of feedback actually. And we've got a couple of hard copies that is going to be handed out. We haven't got many, sorry about that. Okay. And I do apologise that it's not up on the screen. That was our intent, but I do apologise about that. So, Mr. CEO, did you want to speak to the officer's comment on my proposal?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yes, I might need to borrow your proposal because I've shared mine with the audience. Thanks.
There you go.
So, Madam Mayor, yeah, we did discuss this afternoon, and the officer's comments there that will appear in the minutes. The administration, whilst understanding the intent of your motion, thinks that's too much of an administration burden, both on the parents and our staff, to monitor this dual fee structure, mainly for the reasons I've quoted, which is, families typically can move between 3, 4 and 5 days. There's temporary booking changes, there's casual attendance days, there's leave periods. There'll be a requirement for invoice adjustments, and dealing with the federal government with the grant would also be more difficult. And there'll be disputes between parents and the service provider, as well as with the federal government around the grant, which I think just makes the administration of this particular change in our fee structure at this late stage to be such that the administration speaks against it. Particularly given making such a structural change, and Council has already determined to divest from the service. So to upset what is currently has been in place for a long time, for 1 year. We did some modelling, and I also think that the figure of 7% we don't disagree with greatly, but I would have thought $180 a day for the families attending 4 days or more, and $192 a day for the others from our modelling would enable us to break even and recover the $140,000 loss. In relation to point 4, I've suggested that the administration, as a result of the greater transparency commitments to this business unit, we are already producing monthly financials and tracking occupancy from our monthly rates. That way we never get into the situation we have where we don't have a fee increase throughout the year. So on that basis, the administration will be bringing back a request for a fee increase should we need to at any time throughout the year, rather than waiting for a bi-monthly report. So I think biannual. So I think the point 4 is redundant because the administration will be bringing back detailed financials every month, and we'll be suggesting a fee increase should our occupancy fall below the 80% and we not be able to protect the break even and the 140 recovery from this year's operating loss. Happy to take questions.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, based on that, I am happy to remove point 4, but at the moment, councillors, I would open it up to questions, and Councillor Plivka.
quite interested in the efficiency of the service. So at present, where we have a mixture of people attending anywhere from 1 through to 5 days a week, that's what has caused us to only be able to obtain an 80% occupancy.
Through the Mayor, that's correct.
And so if we had families which were, it was entirely comprised of families whose children used the service 5 days a week, it would be a lot easier to obtain a 100% occupancy.
Well, there's many different variables, Councillor, through the Mayor. For instance, you could have, I think I explained quite too long last week. For instance, you could have in a baby's room, you might have to have, say, 0 to 1, you might actually have 100% occupancy. But from 0 to 2, 1 to 2, you might have only 60% occupancy.
But I suppose as a general proposition, it wouldn't hurt. And would it be fair to say that those that use the service 5 days a week, compared to someone that uses it once a week, probably more likely to contribute overall to Wind and Willows in terms of obtaining that better occupancy level of 80%?
Oh, absolutely. If we got more people for 5 days a week, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Burke?
Yep. Through you, Madam Mayor, I note point 2, reference permanently within a semester.
Sorry, you're going to have to move your microphone closer.
Okay. So under the proposal, point 2, it reference permanently. Through you, Madam Mayor, can I ask what is the notice period if a parent wishes to change their days or change their level of enrolment?
I believe it's on a per term basis, but I need to check with the CEO on that one.
I would have to take that notice.
Well, we're deciding on it tonight. When you actually have children in the service, you can enrol them for the entire year at certain days, but I would assume that depending on school terms, you could probably do it per term. Would that be about right? No terms. Okay, so it'd be annual. Yep. Okay. Okay.
So I'm just wanting to, so if there's an enrolment and say, for example, myself as a parent wanted to change from, say, 2 days to 3 days, how much notice do I need to provide, or vice versa, if I had 3 days and I wanted to drop down to 2 days?
Okay, I think I'm going to answer that just for a sec. The whole premise of this is a 2-tier pricing system, where those people who commit to putting their children into the care 4 days a week or more will get a discounted rate. Anything else other than that is proposed to be at the higher rate. What I would suggest is if the administration have a timeline for enrolments, that it follows that timeline, whether it's an annual timeline or a per term timeline like school terms. But if the commitment is for 4 days or more per week, it needs to be a commitment of a certain period of time. Now, anything like that, if someone comes and changes their if they want to go from 4 days down to 3 days, then they have to pay the higher rate. But
sorry, Madam Mayor, I understand that. I've had children in daycare for 16 years, but not showing my age or my ages of children, but I'm trying to articulate what is the notice period, because that does impact point 2 as to whether, for example, I had my child in there 4 days a week versus 3 days a week.
CEO wants to answer.
Madam Mayor, probably just a point of order that this is not an officer's recommendation, so you can't ask the officers that question. We have not had the chance to model this. We've spoken against it based on administration and process, and that's why the answers to your question aren't relevant. Well, they're relevant, but we can't answer them, sorry, Councillor, and that's why we have spoken against the 2-tier system.
Okay. Okay, councillors, further questions whilst I think on that? Councillors, if you can just give me a moment. I'm looking at a change.
Madam Mayor, could
Yes.
I propose that we might adjourn for a time? That would then allow the audience to speak more freely and you to consider the motion. No, once we adjourn, I mean.
I would prefer,
yeah.
you're not supposed to engage with the audience during an
Not
adjournment.
to speak to them. I say I can hear murmuring, so I'm just wondering.
No,
if-
you're
okay.
not supposed to engage. This is,
I'll
that's,
leave you be.
that's the Local Government Act. so I know what you're getting at, but it's not the way it's supposed to work. So sorry about that, Councillor Plifka. Okay, so with point 2, provides a discount on that daily rate of approximately 7% to offer a fee of $179 per child per day for children enrolled at Wind in the Willows for a minimum of 4 or more days per week during the 26-27 financial year. Now, why I've taken out some of those words is that would allow the administration to determine what period of time this discounted fee structure would apply to. So it's not tying them to a term, it's not tying them to the annual, it is allowing the administration to determine if this gets up, by the way. And I do understand that there are some complexities associated with this particular proposal that I'm putting forward. I do understand that very clearly. I've articulated in my reasons both the negatives and the positives. So I'm well aware that we may have some ongoing issues with this. But anyway, councillors, again, further questions? Oops. So. So we're taking out point 4 based on the feedback from the CEO. And point 2, that's if it wants to take out point 4. Oh, again, technology is just being a little bit reluctant.
Technology.
Yes, so
Viewing, you might be able to go enable editing next to where the share button was before. No,
Viewing.
in the top right, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
yay. Okay, and then the other part provides a, yep. Okay. Councillor Plifka.
Not wanting to veer too much into the operational, but would a system work whereby in any given week somebody has attended 3 days, then when they attend the 4th, or is that information not to hand?
That's not the intent. I think you have to, with the systems, clearly with the CEO's comments, that would play into the difficulties of the system. The system is that you enrol your child for a set number of days, and that would happen anyway. I'm sure that happens anyway, that there are children enrolled for a set number of days. It just so happens that the busiest period for Wind in the Willows happens to be Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays. So the part-time and casual aspects of it.
So in relation to that, though, the base rate's 192, and this notice of motion essentially tasks the administration with devising a fair and reasonable way in which to assess whether somebody's entitled to the discount.
Only if they do 4 days a week minimum.
Yes, yeah, but with the operational details left to the administration.
Yes.
Okay, I'm satisfied with that.
Okay. Councillors, further questions? So at this point, councillors, I'm going to open it up. I am happy to move my amendment, but I'm also happy if anyone wishes to move the officer's recommendation. So it's in...
This will be an alternate, Madam Mayor.
Yes, so this is an alternative, it's not an amendment, it's an alternate because it's structurally so different from what the officers are recommending. So usually in that case, we have to see if the officer's recommendation has support. So I would ask if there is a mover for the officer's recommendation.
Not moving it, but foreshadowing that I would if your motion is unsuccessful.
Okay. Okay. Does that work?
That makes, yeah, that's,
Okay.
because otherwise there is no.
I've never had that before. Okay, thank you very much for creating interest in the room. Okay, councillors, I would like to move my alternate. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Plivka.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you're seconding, but you were foreshadowing before. Okay.
Well, as the administration indicated, I didn't want there to be no motion because we do need to
Okay,
determine
okay.
this figure tonight.
Thank you. Councillors, I have moved. Councillor Plivka has seconded. Do we have anyone against? Councillor John. Okay. So we will enter into debate. Coming up with a modelling for the fees and charges has been a very convoluted process. I started working on this alternate on the 19th of May, and I have gone right through to today, making minor amendments along the way because I felt that we needed to find a solution. My main concern relates to the fact that a fee charge, particularly for those people who work full-time and have their children in childcare 4 or more days a week, I had concerns about the cost to those people. And so, you know, parents who might only have their child in there 1, maybe 2 days a week, possibly can afford a fee increase that's of some of the $192 mark. But those parents who might have their children in the childcare for 4 days or 5 days a week, that would pose a very, very significant increase in their outgoings during the week. So I had concerns about that. And I sought to address those in some way, shape or form that was equitable. I also had to take into account the fact that occupancy levels, any figures that we put in forward here is entirely dependent on occupancy levels as to whether we even break even. And I have concerns about that. I have serious concerns about that, particularly with all the negativity that's been ongoing about this facility. So I worry a great deal about the future of the service, and I spend a lot of time trying to look at ways and means to come up with solutions. So this is one of my proposals. It is a solution. It does not guarantee that we will break even. In fact, by offering a discount, there is quite likely the potential that we will not break even, particularly if the occupancy numbers do not remain steady. If they go down and we're offering a discount, I'm pretty sure we won't break even. If, however, the occupancy levels creep up a little bit, you know, if more people put their children in there 4 days a week, maybe, just maybe, even though the rate is lower, just maybe we might get a little bit of a surplus. A surplus does not, a small surplus does not address the main elephant in the room, that we have 2 operations operating from 2 different sites, which is in itself inefficient. We have older buildings which are requiring ongoing and more maintenance. We have a service that cannot compete in reality with the private sector. Amongst other things, love the educators. They're fabulous. They deserve every cent they get. But nevertheless, childcare is an employee-intense industry. And so, on balance, council-operated is paying around about 20% more to run that service just from that one aspect. So it's not a level playing field, can't make the same profits that the private sector makes. There are a whole host of things, complexities to this that are not obvious to every single person who might look at it and go, yeah, keep it, no, get rid of it. There are so many different attitudes out there about it, and so many of these attitudes are not based in fact. And we as councillors, we deal in facts and figures. This is our job. We deal in the basis of managing the ratepayers' revenue in a responsible way. So I am attempting to find a balanced way forward that will assist those parents who use the service the most days per week. And it's the fee that I'm proposing, the top fee of $192, is admittedly less than $195, which was the figure put forward by the administration. It's not a significant drop, but it is, when I was crunching the figures, it's where I ended up, it's where I landed. So I can be crucified for that if I'm not bringing it all down to $170, which we cannot reasonably bring it down to $170 per day. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the alternative that I've put up, and I'll now pass to Councillor Polifka if you would like to speak to this item.
I think you've covered the field pretty well. I'll reserve my right.
Thank you. Councillor John?
Thank you. While I appreciate the effort that's been put into this proposal is coercion dressed as a discount. It commits families beyond their need and disproportionately punishes women and children. Many mothers return to work incrementally or transition back to the workplace after having children and have different paths to return to work. And ultimately, this is not a child-focused policy and they will suffer. This structure also values community members and parents who can and will afford the service all week more than others in our community. It values our community members differently. It sends a message to parents that you're only as good as your usefulness to our bottom line. It is reinventing the wheel to force families to recoup a cost they are not responsible for. Parents were told repeatedly that this service, year on year, broke even every time they were given a fee increase. They didn't know until the announcement this year that the service had turned a loss at all. It is entirely unjust for parents to be put on a rate that is a responsibility of the council and the decisions the council have made. This council is responsible for those losses and the parents shouldn't be stuck with a retrospective bill, and it is shameful to expect the parents to pay for the mistakes of the town. Why can we pay $70,000 of municipal funds on a divestment process, but we can't use municipal funds to fix a mess that we made? It is, if the town must raise enough money to cover redundancies as part of a potential disposal of the service, then we should abandon the disposal and continue the operation on the break-even model that is in this report, as that is a parent and community expectation. The occupancy assumptions are at 80%. The prices that we have of $195 a day, and in this motion, $192 a day. For many parents, that is going to be a deal breaker because it comes packaged with staff leaving, reduced ratios, and the service delivery doesn't justify an increase of that magnitude when other services at that price include extras such as nappies. The public perception this creates, as community members have speculated to me, is that since the failure of the privatisation of the service, the council is now pursuing a strategy of ensuring the service becomes unviable by increasing the charge and reducing its service. The consequence of this, inevitably, is the occupancy drops, the hole in the budget gets bigger, and the need to privatise or wind down the service completely increases, and the land can be sold for a sugar hit. with the fee increase that was benchmarked near Nido, it is not a fair comparison. Nido operate on 12 hours a day. Wind in the Willows is a 10.5-hour day service. This creates a $16.54 per hour cost for Nido, using their numbers, and the town... In line with public questions, this evening, the feedback I have received is many in the community are sceptical of that there is no goodwill or trust left. A community member wrote to me with an observation I'll share. The town's break-even figure of $183 happens to almost exactly match the higher hourly rate of Nido if it were to operate on a 10.5-hour day. So, which demonstrates that it can happen. And they said, this is still a really high increase, and I quote, but it isn't the absolute piss take like $195. The onus is on the town to demonstrate the charge is responsible and appropriate, and this hasn't occurred, demonstrated by the gentleman's question earlier. Perhaps an itemised breakdown of the budget might justify the increase, or an incremental increase and a mid-year review. I would put up a motion to that effect for an incremental increase and a mid-year review. What community members wanted and indicated that they would pay more. Yes, they did. Importantly though, it was not in the context of continuing to sell the service or to divest. And it wasn't to cover redundancies and apparently $500,000 in corporate governance and building maintenance. To quote an individual as a gotcha in support of the rate, who has made their position clear on many occasions, including last week, is out of line. It's not a good standard to set. It is interesting that this is the quote and the thing that has been used, because I recall hearing other quotes that evening. I recall hearing someone say that they were happy for their rates to subsidise a good community service, and another who said, sack the CEO. I don't think that's something that we should do.
That's out of order.
It's
Councillor.
a quote.
It's out of order.
I'm not calling for that. I'm saying it's not something we should do. I'm saying that what we shouldn't do is take things people say and use them, but not follow endorsements that the community has made. It's not a high enough bar for our reports and for our motions. Local governments are expected to ensure information presented is accurate, balanced, not misleading, including by omission or selective framing.
Councillor, I'll ask you to wind up. You've gone considerable time now.
Mm-hmm. I will wind up. The attachment 26-27 budget includes $250,000 for corporate overheads. It could be interpreted that the inefficiency is not with the service model or the wages of the hardworking staff, but instead with the economy of scale of a small local government. If we can no longer productively run a much valued service that has been in the community for 20 years longer than I have been alive, the conversation should be about amalgamation and not eroding the service delivery our community has come to expect.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor. Okay. Councillors, further debate for?
Sorry, through you, Madam Mayor, and apologies if I've got the order wrong. Can I ask a couple of questions just in regards to Councillor John's debate?
My preference would be no, but I will allow you to ask a question of the CEO, not the councillor.
Madam Mayor, I think what the councillor is asking is could be done through rebuttal by speaking for the motion and then rebut what you think, but asking a question I think is not.
Councillors, would you like to speak for or against? Councillor Polifka.
Yeah, look, certainly happy to speak for the motion. As councillors, we rely on the information that's provided to us by the administration. The administration is comprised of sufficiently credentialed individuals. They've put together a report which says that $195 is what is required to break even. So there's a buffer in there, yes, for the possibility that the 80% may drop to 75%, but any business builds in contingencies to ensure that the service they're providing doesn't lose money. Not suggesting that the town is a business, but what the town is the collective money of the entire rate base. And it would be irresponsible to embark on a course that would see local government enter into a loss-making endeavour. All that does, and we keep hearing the cost of living crisis, all that does is move that liability to other members of the community, to other ratepayers. So I couldn't support a position whereby the town would be losing money. And that's been shown. Independent auditors have provided that there were, for 2 years, 330 and 350 odd thousand of municipal funds. Some was covered by the reserves, but effectively there's 350 or 2% of rates is coming from municipal funds to pay for this if we don't do as has been suggested by the Director of Corporate Services and charge that amount. So we're not talking about a failing, we're not talking about punishing, we're simply looking at the facts and saying this is how much needs to be charged in order for the town to not lose money. Now, in terms of that, that was the officer's recommendation. Now, what the Mayor has sought to do is to ameliorate the effect of that. So the base rate of 195 has been reduced slightly, but what I find more attractive about this particular amendment is that it takes care of those in the community that are really doing it tough, those that have no wiggle room. If you're a single parent who's working 5 days a week, you can't take on any more work. The budget is finite, it's at its limit. There is no scope for people in that position to find more money, and those are the people that we want to protect. Similarly, if fortunate enough to have a family which is comprised of both parents and both of them happen to be working 5 days a week, then again, there's no room for them to take on additional work. And those are the people that are really under the most economic strain. So yes, council shouldn't be making a loss, but at the same time, we're not a corporation as such. We are the representatives of the community, and we look to come to an outcome which is fair for the entire community. Don't believe it would be fair for a service which is used by a very small number of the community to be subsidised by the broader ratepayer. In terms of those that are doing it really tough, though, that's different. We need to protect those people who are doing it really tough, and that's what this goes to. So those that are doing the 4 and 5 days, if they're on a 9-day fortnight, those sorts of people that are fixed hours, they're not going to increase the amount of money that's coming in the door. So we have compassion for them and want to try and keep the rate increase for them as low as possible, and that's what this amendment is, an alternate proposal is aimed at doing.
Thank you, Councillor Polifka. Sorry. Oh, we didn't set the timer, so I wasn't sure with you. Okay. So, councillors, if there's no other councillor to debate, I will close. Okay. Interesting commentary across the chamber tonight. Disappointing commentary, but never mind, move on. We get that. People have different opinions. They're entitled to their different opinions. That is called democracy. Now, I did look at the NIDO website. I had quite a long look at that and some of the things that they do. Even though they're a private operator and even though they pay leasing fees, they do not pay the same overheads the local government pays. But let's move past that for a moment. So NIDO, with their fee of $198.50 per day per child, they only offer I think it's roughly 5 or 6% discount for those people who will enrol their children on a Monday or a Friday. So they don't offer a discount across the whole lot. It's just, you know, if you enrol your children on a Monday and Friday. And I understand that, because Mondays or Fridays tend to be when public holidays happen, and, you know, there's a few things there where people who've got their children enrolled on those days tend to have to pay fees, or at least half the fees for those particular public holidays. So there's a lot of different modelling in the childcare industry. So it's very, very difficult to actually compare apples with apples, okay? So that in itself is a little bit of a problem. We do have several childcare operators in the district, which is good. They all look like they're meeting standards, 1 or 2 exceeding standards, which is also good. We don't have any terrible childcares that I can see, but, you know, I might be wrong. When it comes to local government is a entity that has huge compliance requirements. It has a lot of overheads, admittedly, and certainly over the last several years, local governments right across the metropolitan area have exited childcare, particularly during COVID. Because during COVID, when all the other employers, private operators and not-for-profits were receiving a federal government subsidy to retain workers, local governments we were not eligible for those worker retention grants, which was really tough. And I can tell you now that the council valued those workers at Wind in the Willows so much that we retained every single worker during that COVID period. And that was something which most other councils did not do. Most of them closed their childcare. I bemoan the fact that there is this escalation of, when you look at the figures, there's been a massive escalation in the for-profit sector for childcare, whilst there's been a rather rapid decrease in the not-for-profit and the community-led childcare sector. I don't know exactly what the reasons are for that. I'm not an authority on it, but it's part and parcel of the childcare landscape. I've heard people argue, if we talk about hearsay, I've heard people argue that, you know, early childhood education, surely that's a state or a federal issue. So I've heard that. You know, we all have different opinions, and we should be respectful of everyone else's different opinions. But the fact that the administration basically listened to the community when they wanted to make sure that the figures from 2023, 24 and 24, 25 were accurate. They didn't hedge at all. They didn't wait. When I asked if that could be independently assessed, audited, the administration said, okay, we'll do that. So to constantly cast the council as being terrible, I think that's wrong. I think this is a council that try very hard to do the best for our community. We have multiple projects, we have multiple things on the go, we have a asset renewal program for the next 3 years that's massive. We have doubled reserves in the last 7 years to try and actually ensure that we have the money to do all these things that we need to do. This issue with Wind in the Willows, would it have been better with a private operator or a not-for-profit? I'm not sure. I can't tell you that I have the answer to that. But do I think that as one of the last remaining councils in the metro area running direct delivery childcare, do I think that it's difficult for a council to continue in this space with the increased legislative requirements? Operating from old buildings? Yes, I do think it's difficult. And do I think that things need to change? Absolutely. I've already highlighted to the community my belief that it shouldn't be 2 separate services, should not be operating from 2 separate sites, should be in a new facility if possible. We have not had any traction with state or federal government at this time. Nevertheless, we're continuing to engage because the ultimate aim might be, if we can achieve it, to actually get a new facility and to deliver a wind in the willows for the next few generations, not just for here and now. So these are my aspirations. Are my solutions perfect? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But do I continue working for better solutions? Yes, I do. And am I hopeful that this motion will be supported? Yes, I am, because I would like to see those parents who pay for 4 or more days a week to be paying slightly less than the top rate. Okay, and I'll ask now for a show of hands for those who support my alternative. I have Councillor Burke, Councillor Carter, Councillor Plifka, myself. Those against, Councillor John. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Okay. So we'll now move on to item 12.3, which Councillor Carter pulled out from en bloc.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Could I introduce the Director of Planning and Regulation to address this particular item? Thank you.
Thank you, Cameron, and through you, Madam Mayor. There's been some discussions in relation to this report about potential deferral of the matter. I would strongly encourage Council not to defer this item. There was concerns in relation to a repeat of the Devon Road examples that Councillor Carter raised previously. However, in the opinion of the administration, the proposed draft amended local planning policy addresses these concerns by removing the current exemption that allowed the demolition to occur without development approval. Failure to proceed with the amended policy, the current exemption will continue to apply. The policy sets out the framework in which applications for demolition that are not exempt will be assessed against. The administration is satisfied that the draft amended policy, as contained in attachment 3 to the report, sets out a reasonable framework for considering demolition of heritage protected places. However, in noting the discussions last week at the briefing session, the administration has prepared an alternative motion that may be moved by a councillor. I believe you guys have a copy of that. The alternative motion includes an additional point A, which notes that demolition of a place of heritage significance is contrary to the principles and objectives of the policy. It renumbers the remaining points and makes point B3 more prescriptive. In relation to the proposed points under B3, which relates to community benefit, please note the provision in question only applies to the consideration of demolition of places within a designated heritage area that are not on the State Heritage Register, local heritage list and/or included on a local heritage survey, i.e. no recognised heritage value. Ultimately, it's a decision of council if they wish to include this provision. My recommendation is to keep it included, as it will reinforce the ability to refuse the demolition of a dwelling in the absence of consideration of a new dwelling, noting there is limited community benefit in having a vacant lot in lieu of a dwelling, particularly in a housing shortfall. I'd reiterate the use of the word "and" in each point means each point must be considered in the assessment of the application, and it is not an "and/or" scenario. There's also been some commentary in relation to delegations. I'd note that the current delegation framework already appropriately limits delegated authority to applications that comply with relevant provisions of a local planning policy. In circumstances where there was a departure, these applications would be referred to council. Happy to take any questions as well.
So, councillors, just making sure that at the top on there you've got motion 1, alternative motion 1. Okay, so Councillor Carter, that was one you were looking at, is that correct? Because the officer was quite kindly drafted 2 different alternatives, but I just want to check with you, Councillor.
Yes, it is the one I'd prefer to support.
Yeah.
Can I ask some questions?
You may indeed.
Now?
You may ask questions, yes.
Thank you, Mr Snedden. First of all, thank you very much for taking on board a lot of my concerns about it. And I must admit that I was worried, and what triggered this worry was, of course, what happened in Devon Road, which wasn't expected. I have a particular issue, or had a particular issue, with the clause that says that the proposed redevelopment delivers a tangible and site-specific community benefit that outweighs the loss of the existing place and is consistent with adopted planning objectives for the locality. I think you've explained that one quite well, that it's not a get-out-of-jail-free card for anyone who wants to knock down anything, and that these are very strict. What it does point out that we're going to have to look at our local heritage survey and consider, and I believe that that's coming up in a year's time. We really do need to strengthen that as a basis for these policies. I'm happy to support this. You've added a lot more into it. I'm really, really grateful for the work, considering how under the pump you all have been, to take on my concerns. I am happy to move your recommendation, or remove what you... Sorry, let me start again. I'm happy to move this motion, if I can get a seconder for it.
Okay.
And I think it is an important...
Okay. So, Councillor, you're straying you're moving the motion, you're straying away from questions.
Oh,
So-
I'm always doing
Yes,
something.
you are indeed. So I'll ask, is there a seconder for this? Councillor Polivka. Okay.
You think I'd know by now after all
Yes.
these years, wouldn't you? However.
Okay. Okay, councillors, do I have anyone against? Okay, I'll declare this. Actually, everyone just raise your hands if you're in favour of this. Okay, so we have Councillor John, Councillor Burke, Councillor Carter, Councillor Polivka and myself. So that's carried.
Could we ask that a new motion be read out, because it's quite specific? Is that possible?
Okay.
Sorry, and I know we're running very late, but still.
Okay, so I'll read it out. Okay, that Council 1, pursuant to clause 4.3b1 and 9.1 of the Schedule 2 of the Planning and Development Local Planning Schemes Regulations 2015, proceeds with the draft amended Local Planning Policy Number 4, Heritage and Character, including the designation of the Nurstead Avenue Heritage Area as contained in Attachment 3 to this report, subject to the following provision 2.8, demolition being modified to read as follows. 2.8 Demolition A. The demolition or removal of a place of heritage significance is contrary to the principles and objectives of this policy. The following factors are not considered justification for the demolition of a place of heritage significance. 1. Poor condition resulting from the place not being properly maintained, and or 2. The presence of hazardous material such as asbestos. B. Where development approval is required for any demolition, the application will be assessed with consideration of the following. 1. For places on the State Heritage Register and or Local Heritage List, the heritage significance of the place and the feasibility of retaining, restoring and adaptability, reusing the place, including incorporation into new development. 2. For places within a designated heritage area that are included on a local heritage survey, the heritage significance of the place and the feasibility of retaining, restoring and adaptability, reusing the place, including incorporation into new development. 3. For places within a designated heritage area that are not on the State Heritage Register, Local Heritage List and or included on a local heritage survey, the combination of the place to the heritage area, the contribution, of the place to the heritage area, including but not limited to the streetscape and overall character, and whether the proposed redevelopment will demonstrably improve or reinforce the identified heritage significance and character values of the heritage area, including through built form, setbacks, landscaping, retention of established vegetation, materiality and or streetscape presentation, and whether the proposed redevelopment delivers a tangible and site-specific community benefit that outweighs the loss of the existing place and is consistent with adopted planning objectives for the locality. Then the rest of it, point C, is as per the officer recommendation. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That was heroic.
Right, thank you. So that is now carried. We will now move on to okay, so we'll now move on to item 12.7, which I'll have the officer, Mr. CEO, if the officer speaks to that one.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Nothing further to add since the agenda briefing. We did spend some time on this, so the officers are happy to take question, otherwise happy to put it straight to the vote. Thank you.
Okay, councillors, do we have questions on this, which is the local law, activities in thoroughfares and public places and trading local law? No. Okay, do we have a mover for this item? Move and Councillor Polifka, seconder. Councillor Carter. Anyone against? I'll declare that carried. We now move to 12.8, which is the Bassendean North Underground Power Project co-funding agreement. And I would ask Mr. CEO if the officer could speak to this one.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think the Director of Corporate Services might speak to this.
Thank you, CEO and Mayor, councillors. This report was presented to councillors last week at the agenda briefing session, which was held on the 19th of May. I haven't made any further updates, so my recommendation is to seek council's approval to proceed with the Bassendean North Underground Power Project co-fund agreement with Western Power.
Okay. Councillors, questions on this one? Okay, so just to confirm that the co-funding agreement, given the delayed manner in which this has been presented to Council by Western Power, I believe the workshop was in March, the Council are not going to levy any fees and charges for the underground power project onto ratepayers for the 26-27 financial year, and this will allow engagement over this coming financial year. Is that correct?
That's correct, Madam Mayor.
Okay. And it's proposed that thereafter, in the 27-28 financial year, it is then that the council will start levying fees, but the timeline over which those repayments will happen is yet to be determined. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, councillors, further questions on this one?
So just further to your question, Madam Mayor, so essentially what we're saying is that in terms of the repayments, so the amount that would be levied on the ratepayer, what they'd have to repay each year, we're yet to discuss sort of the time period over which that would occur and maybe the number of years over which that would occur?
That's correct.
Okay, excellent, thanks.
Okay.
To Madam Mayor.
Yep. Further questions, councillors? Do I have a mover for this item? Councillor Polifka. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Carter. Do I have anyone against? I'll declare that carried. Okay, so we now move on to item 12.11, Audit Risk and Improvement Committee. Did you want to have anyone speak to this one, Mr. CEO?
I'm happy that nothing's changed, but the Manager of Governance is happy to take any questions.
Councillors, are there any questions on this one? Do I have a mover for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Polifka, seconded Councillor Burke. Do I have anyone against? I'll declare that carried. We come to 12.12, the Delegations Register Review. And Mr. CEO, did you want to speak to this one?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, at the briefing session, the Council Laws did raise 2 items for review. I think one related to delegations around potential tree canopy, I think, Councillor Balifka, and I think with the assistance of the Manager of Planning and Regulation, we've provided a fulsome response to Councillor Balifka and copied councillors in. So I would just ask that that be considered and we take questions in relation to those, or if Councillor Balifka is satisfied with those responses, we could move the officer's recommendation.
Yeah, look, certainly. So the intention there was to alter the delegation. As the Manager for Planning has, I think, rightfully put, they have, in terms of the exercise of the delegation, done that in accordance with the policy, and it's not at the delegation level that we need to be looking, but perhaps at the policy level. So if we're dissatisfied with the trees which have been removed, where we say potentially they ought not to have, then that's something which we would look at a policy level as opposed to a delegation level. Is that correct?
That is correct. That's, I believe, the most appropriate way.
And in terms of that, that's something which we could, I suppose, discuss and then work out whether that's something which, I suppose, from the administration comes back before us or is originated by a councillor, but that's something which could be discussed going forward.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, that's correct.
Great, thank you.
Further questions, councillors? No? Okay. Do I have a mover for this item? Councillor Plivka, seconded. Councillor Burke. Anyone against? I'll declare that carried. So, councillors, that brings us to the end of the agenda items. We now move on to motions of which previous notice has been given. 13.1, a notice of motion, investigation and concept planning for a nature-based jump or pump track development. Councillors or the administration, Ms CEO, did you want to speak to this item?
No, Madam Mayor, but I would just like to commend you for making the notice of motion. I've been involved with one of these in a previous local government where we provided the kids with the tools, the raw materials and the expertise from a particular jump track manufacturer or builder. And over a weekend they created their own jump track as they wanted to. And I think by having the kids involved, you end up having the kids take ownership and they also learn the skills about how to do these things properly and safely. So I commend you for the notice of motion. I think it's a good one and I think we're keen to get stuck in.
Okay. So, councillors, just for the benefit of the audience listening in, I'll read out the motion. The council requests the Chief Executive Officer, 1, investigate the feasibility of potential sites within the district that may be suited to development of a small to mid-sized nature-based jump track or pump track that does not conflict with environmentally sensitive areas or residential areas, and 2, once a site has been selected and approved by council in consultation with community, develop a concept plan for the timely consideration of council where the aim would be delivery of the completed project in the 2026-27 financial year. 3, rehabilitate and revegetate unauthorised bike tracks in inappropriate locations as the formally approved nature-based as the approved nature-based dump track site outlined in points 1 and 2 becomes available for use. So, councillors, I would like to move that. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Carter. Do I have anyone against?
Just some questions.
Oh, sorry. Yes, you may ask questions.
So where we have 3, so as I understand, point 3 is that the rehabilitation will happen after the new facilities or track has been constructed. Again, might be a bit operational, but would we erect signs at the rehabilitated sites to direct people to the new sites?
Yeah, very logical. Yes, I take that on board.
But that's not something. Yeah, thanks, Cal.
Okay. So, I have moved.
Yeah, not against it.
Okay, I've moved it, and I've got a seconder, Councillor Carter. I'll put that, in case no one else wants to talk. Okay, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? I'll declare that carried. Thank you very much. There is, as far as I know, no announcements of notices of motion for the next meeting. There is no urgent business. There is no confidential business. And so the next ordinary council meeting will be held on Tuesday, The 23rd of June, 2026, commencing at 6 p.m. And I declare this meeting closed at 7:44 p.m. Thank you, one and all. Thank you. And we'll wait for the recording.